In the shadowy depths of ancient mythology, there exists a gateway, a threshold where worlds collide, and the boundaries between life and death, reality and the divine, blur into mystery. Picture the Greek god Hermes, the swift-footed messenger, guiding souls across the river Styx through the gates of the underworld. But this is no ordinary passage. These gates are more than stone and metal. They are symbols of transformation, of journeys into the unknown. From the Norse Bifrost to the gates of Valhalla, from the Egyptian Duat to the celestial gates of Hindu lore, these portals appear again and again, woven into the fabric of countless cultures. Why do they persist? What secrets do they guard? And what do they tell us about humanity's deepest fears, hopes, and dreams? In this journey, we'll uncover the hidden meanings behind these gates, exploring the rituals, myths, and symbolism that have shaped civilizations for millennia. Together, we'll step through the threshold and into a world where history meets imagination, where every gate tells a story. Are you ready to unlock the mysteries? The gates of the underworld in Greek mythology are more than just a physical barrier. They are a profound symbol of transition, a doorway between the world of the living and the realm of the dead. At the heart of this myth stands Hades, the god of the underworld, and his fearsome guardian, Cerberus, the three-headed hound with a serpent's tail. This monstrous sentinel wasn't just a deterrent. Cerberus embodied the very essence of what lay beyond the gates, something wild, untamed, and utterly unknown. For the ancient Greeks, these gates represented the ultimate threshold, a point of no return. But crossing them wasn't just about physical passage. It was a deeply spiritual act tied to rituals and beliefs about the afterlife. The Greeks believed that to enter the underworld, the dead had to be properly prepared. Coins were placed on their eyes or under their tongues as payment for Charon, the ferryman who would guide their souls across the river Styx. Without this offering, the dead were doomed to wander the banks for eternity. This ritual underscores a universal human anxiety, the fear of being unprepared, of being lost in the great unknown. The gates, guarded by Cerberus, weren't just a test of courage but a test of readiness. They forced the living to confront their own mortality and the choices they made in life. Symbolically, these gates also represent transformation. To pass through them was to leave behind the familiar and enter a realm of mystery. For the Greeks, this wasn't just about death. It was about the journey of the soul, the idea that life and death are part of a greater cycle. The gates of the underworld remind us that every ending is also a beginning, that crossing a threshold, no matter how terrifying, can lead to rebirth. But the Greeks weren't alone in envisioning such a gateway. Across cultures, the idea of an underworld guarded by a fearsome figure or a symbolic threshold appears again and again. From the Norse Helheim to the Egyptian Duat, these gates serve as mirrors, reflecting humanity's collective fears and hopes about what lies beyond. And as we'll soon see, each culture brings its own unique perspective to these ancient stories, weaving them into the fabric of their beliefs and rituals. Now, let's step away from the shadowy gates of the underworld and into the vivid, shimmering light of Norse mythology. Here we find the Bifröst, a bridge unlike any other, a blazing rainbow that arcs across the sky, connecting the world of humans, Midgard, to the realm of the gods, Asgard. This is no ordinary bridge. It's a gateway, a shimmering pathway that binds the mortal and the divine. Picture it, a radiant, multicolored span glowing with an otherworldly light, its surface crackling with energy. But this bridge isn't just a marvel of the mythic imagination. It's a symbol of connection, of the delicate balance between two worlds. Guarding this celestial passage is Heimdall, the ever-watchful sentinel. With eyes that can see for hundreds of miles and ears sharp enough to hear grass growing, Heimdall stands as the protector of the Bifröst, ensuring that only the worthy may cross. In Norse lore, he isn't just a gatekeeper, he's a symbol of vigilance and order, a reminder that even the most extraordinary pathways have their limits. But the Bifrost itself is more than just a bridge, it's a fragile link, a thread that ties humanity to the divine. And like all things in Norse mythology, it carries a warning: nothing lasts forever. The Bifrost's fiery collapse during Ragnarok, the apocalyptic battle that ends the world, is one of the most dramatic moments in Norse myth. As the gods and giants clash, the bridge shatters, consumed by flames, its vibrant colors swallowed by chaos. This destruction isn't just a spectacular visual, it's a profound metaphor. The Bifrost represents the fragile connection between humans and gods, a bond that can be broken when the world falls into disorder. Its collapse underscores the Norse belief in the impermanence of all things, even the sacred ties that bind worlds together. Yet, the Bifrost story doesn't end with its destruction. In Norse cosmology, the end of one cycle is always the beginning of another. The bridge's fiery demise is a reminder that even the most vital links can be severed, but it also hints at the possibility of renewal. For the Norse, the destruction of the Bifrost wasn't just an ending. It was a call to rebuild, to forge new connections in a world reborn. The Bifrost teaches us that gates and bridges aren't just physical structures, they're symbols of our deepest aspirations and fears. They remind us of the delicate balance between order and chaos, connection and separation. And as we'll see, this idea of symbolic gates extends far beyond Norse mythology, appearing in cultures across the globe, each with its own unique twist on the theme. But what about gates that exist not in the physical world, but within the realm of the spirit? What happens when the threshold we cross isn't made of stone or fire, but of something far more intangible? This leads us to the next mystery, one that takes us beyond the material and into the heart of the human soul. The Celtic world is steeped in enchantment, where the boundaries between the mortal realm and the otherworld are not fixed but fluid, shimmering like a veil caught in the wind. These are the thin places, sacred sites where the divide between worlds grows faint, almost transparent. Imagine standing in a misty forest grove or on the edge of a windswept cliff, feeling the air hum with an otherworldly energy. For the Celts, these were not just poetic notions, they were real, tangible gateways where the spiritual and the earthly intertwined. At certain times of the year, this veil was believed to grow especially thin, most notably during Samhain, the festival marking the end of the harvest season and the beginning of winter. Samhain was a time of transition, a liminal period when the rules of the ordinary world seemed to loosen. It was said that during this time, spirits could cross over into the mortal realm and the living could glimpse the other world. Bonfires blazed, offerings were made, and communities came together to honor their ancestors and seek protection from wandering spirits. But this wasn't just a celebration. It was a profound acknowledgement of the cyclical nature of life and death, a recognition that the two realms were never truly separate. Central to these beliefs were the druids and shamans, revered figures who acted as mediators between worlds. They were the gatekeepers, the ones who understood the rituals and incantations needed to navigate these thin places safely. Through their guidance, the Celts sought to maintain harmony with the unseen forces that shaped their lives. The Druids' knowledge of the sacred calendar, their ability to interpret omens, and their role in conducting rituals made them indispensable in bridging the gap between the human and the divine. One of the most captivating legends tied to these thin places is the story of Tur-Na and Og, the land of eternal youth. In this tale, the hero Oisin is lured across the threshold by the fairy princess Niamh, who promises him a life free from pain and aging. Tur-Na and Og is a place of unending beauty and joy, but it comes with a price. When Oisin eventually returns to the mortal world, he discovers that centuries have passed in his absence. The legend serves as a poignant reminder of the allure and peril of crossing into the otherworld. It's a cautionary tale about the cost of stepping through the veil, a theme that resonates deeply in Celtic lore. The Celts' belief in thin places reflects a broader human fascination with the idea of threshold spaces where the ordinary and the extraordinary meet. Similar concepts appear in other mythologies, from the Japanese torii gates that mark the entrance to sacred spaces to the Native American vision, quests that seek communion with the spirit world. These stories remind us that the desire to connect with something beyond ourselves is universal, a thread that weaves through the tapestry of human experience. As we move forward, we'll explore how these themes of transition and transformation manifest in even more diverse cultures, each offering its own unique perspective on the gates between worlds. But for now, let's linger in the misty realms of Celtic mythology, where the veil between worlds is never quite as solid as it seems. In the realm of Abrahamic traditions, gates take on a profoundly moral and spiritual dimension, serving as the ultimate thresholds between the divine and the human, the sacred and the profane. Picture the Pearly Gates of Heaven, a shimmering entrance often depicted in art and literature as a place of eternal peace and reward. These gates aren't just a physical barrier, they represent the culmination of a life well lived, a final judgment that separates the righteous from the unworthy. In contrast, the gates of hell loom as a stark reminder of punishment and despair, a boundary that seals the fate of those who stray from the path of righteousness. Together, these gates embody the dual nature of divine justice, reflecting humanity's deepest fears and highest aspirations. The idea of heavenly and infernal gates is deeply rooted in biblical and Quranic texts. In the Bible, Jacob's vision of a ladder reaching to heaven with angels ascending and descending is a powerful metaphor for the connection between earth and the divine. This ladder, often interpreted as a kind of spiritual gateway, suggests that the boundaries between realms are not fixed but can be traversed through faith and divine favor. Similarly, the gates of Jerusalem hold immense symbolic weight in Judeo-Christian tradition. They are not just physical entrances to a city but sacred thresholds that signify protection, community, and divine presence. In Islamic tradition, the gates of heaven and hell are vividly described in the Quran. The gates of heaven, known as the gates of paradise, are said to number 8, each reserved for different groups of the faithful. These gates symbolize the diversity of paths to divine reward, reflecting the idea that righteousness takes many forms. On the other hand, the gates of hell, guarded by the fearsome angel Malik, serve as a grim warning. They are described as a place of torment and separation, where the gates themselves seem to embody the finality of divine judgment. These concepts of gates as moral and spiritual boundaries have left an indelible mark on medieval art and literature. In Dante's Divine Comedy, the gates of hell bear the chilling inscription, "Abandon all hope, ye who enter here." This phrase captures the irrevocable nature of the infernal threshold, a point of no return for those who have turned away from divine grace. In contrast, medieval depictions of the pearly gates often show Saint Peter as the gatekeeper, holding the keys to heaven, a symbol of divine authority and the power to grant or deny entry. The influence of these ideas extends beyond religious texts and into the cultural imagination. Medieval cathedrals often featured intricate carvings and stained glass windows depicting the Last Judgment, with the saved entering through heavenly gates and the damned cast into the fiery depths. These artistic representations served as visual sermons, reminding viewers of the consequences of their choices and the ultimate reality of divine judgment. What makes these gates so compelling is their dual nature. They are both barriers and invitations, places of exclusion and inclusion. They challenge us to reflect on our own lives, to consider the choices we make and the paths we follow. In this way, the gates of heaven and hell are not just ancient symbols, they are timeless reminders of the moral and spiritual journeys that define the human experience. As we move forward, we'll see how these themes of judgment and transformation continue to shape our understanding of gates in other cultural contexts. From the symbolic to the spiritual, these thresholds reveal the universal human desire to navigate the boundaries between the known and the unknown, the earthly and the divine. For now, let's carry with us the image of these gates not just as static symbols, but as dynamic forces that continue to inspire, challenge, and guide us. Stepping into the realm of modern speculation, we encounter a theory that reimagines ancient myths through the lens of science fiction and extraterrestrial possibility. What if the gates described in mythology weren't just symbolic thresholds, but actual stargates, advanced portals used by extraterrestrial beings to traverse the cosmos? This is the bold claim at the heart of the ancient astronaut theory, a controversial yet captivating idea that blends ancient storytelling with modern imagination. Proponents of this theory point to texts like the Egyptian Book of the Dead, which describes mysterious gates guarded by deities, each leading to different realms of existence. Could these gates, often depicted as shimmering or radiant, have been more than just metaphors? Some suggest they were advanced technologies, perhaps even devices for interstellar travel. Similarly, the Vimana texts of ancient India describe flying machines capable of traversing vast distances, powered by unknown energies. These accounts, often dismissed as mythological, are interpreted by ancient astronaut theorists as evidence of lost technologies or extraterrestrial intervention. The allure of this theory lies in its ability to bridge the gap between the ancient and the modern. It takes the awe-inspiring imagery of mythology, gates glowing with otherworldly light, celestial bridges spanning unimaginable distances, and reinterprets them as possible remnants of a forgotten, technologically advanced past. For many, this idea offers a tantalizing explanation for the unexplained. The pyramids, the Nazca lines, even the intricate stonework of ancient temples. Could these be the remnants of stargates, the physical evidence of a time when humanity interacted with beings from beyond the stars? Yet this theory is not without its critics. Skeptics argue that interpreting mythological gates as stargates risks oversimplifying the rich, symbolic language of ancient cultures. Myths, they contend, are not blueprints for technology but profound narratives that explore human experiences, fears, and aspirations. The gates of mythology, whether they lead to the underworld or the heavens, serve as metaphors for transformation, for the journey of the soul, rather than literal doorways to other worlds. Still, the ancient astronaut theory raises an intriguing question. Could there be a grain of truth hidden within these myths? Could the stories of gates and portals be humanity's way of remembering encounters with advanced civilizations or technologies beyond their understanding? This blending of ancient myth and modern speculation invites us to reconsider the boundaries between history and imagination, between the symbolic and the literal. As we explore this idea, we're left to wonder, are these gates purely symbolic or do they hint at something more? Could they be the echoes of a time when the line between myth and reality was far less distinct? Whether you embrace the ancient astronaut theory or remain skeptical, it's hard to deny the power of these stories to spark curiosity and inspire wonder. And as we continue our journey, we'll see how these themes of mystery and possibility unfold in even more unexpected ways. The story of the Trojan Horse is one of the most enduring tales in mythology, not just as a cunning act of war, but as a profound metaphor for the power of deception and the fragility of boundaries. Imagine the scene, the mighty walls of Troy standing tall and unbreachable, a symbol of the city's strength and resilience. For years, these walls had protected its people, shielding them from the relentless onslaught of the Greek army. But what no one could have anticipated was that the greatest threat wouldn't come from the outside. It would be carried in through the gates themselves. The Trojan Horse, a seemingly innocent offering left by the retreating Greeks, was anything but a gift. It was a ruse, a vessel of hidden danger disguised as a peace offering. The Trojans, lulled into a false sense of security, brought the massive wooden structure inside their walls, unknowingly opening their gates to destruction. This act of betrayal underscores a timeless truth, that the very barriers meant to protect us can also become our downfall when trust is misplaced. The gates of Troy, once a symbol of safety, became the entry point for disaster. At its core, the Trojan Horse is a story about the dual nature of gates. They are not just physical structures but symbolic thresholds, points of vulnerability where strength can turn to weakness, where trust can be exploited. In warfare, gates represent both the defense of a community and its Achilles heel. They are the places where diplomacy and deception intersect, where the line between friend and foe blurs. The Trojans' decision to open their gates to the horse reveals the human tendency to lower our guard when we believe the danger has passed, a cautionary tale that resonates even today. But the symbolism of the Trojan horse goes beyond warfare. It also speaks to the idea of transformation. By breaching the gates of Troy, the Greeks didn't just conquer a city, they shattered an era, bringing about a new chapter in history. In this way, the gates of Troy can be seen as a threshold of change, a moment when the old order collapses and the new begins. The story reminds us that gates, whether physical or metaphorical, are not just barriers. They are opportunities for transformation, for stepping into the unknown and emerging on the other side forever changed. This duality of gates, their ability to protect and expose, to shield and transform, appears in countless other myths and historical narratives. From the biblical story of Jericho, where the walls came tumbling down, to the medieval castles whose gates were both fortresses and points of negotiation, gates have always been more than mere entrances. They are symbols of power, trust, and the ever-present possibility of change. As we reflect on the Trojan horse, we're reminded that gates are not just thresholds we cross. They are thresholds we choose to open or close, to guard or surrender. They challenge us to consider what lies beyond, to weigh the risks and rewards of stepping into the unknown. And in doing so, they invite us to confront the deeper truths about ourselves, our vulnerabilities, our trust, and our capacity for transformation. With this in mind, let's turn our attention to another set of gates, one that represents not just a physical boundary, but a spiritual and cultural one, carrying with it the weight of history and the promise of renewal. In the quiet stillness of night, when the world slips into shadow and the mind wanders freely, dreams become more than fleeting images. They transform into gateways. For many indigenous cultures, dreams are not just random thoughts but sacred portals, offering access to the spirit world. These dream gates are not bound by time or space. They are thresholds where the physical and spiritual realms intertwine, where the wisdom of ancestors and the mysteries of the universe can be revealed. In traditions across the Americas, Africa, and Australia, shamans and spiritual leaders have long regarded dreams as a vital connection to the unseen. Through rituals, meditation, and trance-like states, they journey beyond the waking world, crossing these dream gates to seek guidance, healing, and insight. For the Ojibwe people of North America, for example, dreams are a direct line to the spirits, offering visions that guide individuals and communities. Similarly, the Aboriginal peoples of Australia speak of the dream time, a timeless dimension where the ancestors reside and where the boundaries between past, present, and future dissolve. These dream gates are not passive experiences. They require intention and respect. Shamans often prepare for dream journeys through fasting, prayer, or the use of sacred plants, creating a state of openness and receptivity. Once the gate is crossed, the dreamer may encounter spirit guides, receive messages from ancestors, or gain knowledge about healing practices. These experiences are not taken lightly. They are seen as profound gifts, carrying the weight of responsibility and the potential for transformation. The role of dreams as bridges between worlds underscores a universal human truth, that the boundaries we perceive are not always as rigid as they seem. Dreams remind us that the spiritual realm is not distant or separate, but deeply intertwined with our everyday lives. They challenge us to look beyond the surface, to listen to the whispers of the unseen, and to recognize the interconnectedness of all things. Modern psychology offers its own interpretation of these ancient ideas, framing dreams as a window into the subconscious mind. Pioneers like Carl Jung saw dreams as a way to access the collective unconscious, a shared reservoir of symbols and archetypes that transcend individual experience. In this view, dream gates might represent the threshold between the conscious and unconscious, a space where repressed thoughts, fears, and desires come to light. While the language may differ, the core idea remains strikingly similar. Dreams are a powerful tool for understanding ourselves and the world around us. Yet, there's a crucial distinction. Indigenous traditions often see dreams as more than personal reflections. They are communal, spiritual experiences that connect individuals to their ancestors, their land, and the cosmos. This perspective invites us to consider dreams not just as inward journeys, but as outward bridges, linking us to something greater than ourselves. As we reflect on the gates of dreams, we're reminded that the boundaries between worlds are not always physical. They can be as intangible as a thought, as fleeting as a vision, yet they hold the power to shape our understanding of existence. Whether through the lens of ancient traditions or modern psychology, dreams challenge us to step through the threshold and explore the mysteries that lie beyond. And so, as we continue our journey through the gates of mythology, let's carry with us this idea that the most profound thresholds are often the ones we cannot see, the ones that exist within us, waiting to be discovered. In the vast tapestry of Hindu mythology, time is not a linear path but a great, ever-turning wheel, a cosmic cycle known as Kalachakra. This wheel of time spins endlessly, carrying with it the rhythms of creation, preservation, and destruction. At the heart of this concept lie the gates of time, thresholds that mark the transitions between these cosmic phases. To step through these gates is to witness the divine dance of existence, where the universe itself is continually reborn. The Kalachakra, or Wheel of Time, is a profound symbol of the cyclical nature of reality. It reflects the belief that time is not a straight line but a series of repeating patterns, each phase flowing seamlessly into the next. The gates of time, then, are not physical structures but moments of transformation, points where one era ends and another begins. These gates are guarded by the gods themselves, with Lord Vishnu often depicted as the keeper of this cosmic order. Vishnu's role in this cycle is central to understanding the gates of time. In Hindu cosmology, he descends to Earth in various avatars or incarnations to restore balance whenever the world is threatened by chaos. Each avatar, from the wise Rama to the fierce Krishna, represents a divine intervention, a moment when the gates of time open to allow the sacred to enter the mortal realm. These avatars are not just stories, they are symbolic gateways connecting the eternal flow of time to the transient lives of humanity. Take, for example, the story of Vishnu's avatar as the giant fish Matsya. When the world was submerged in a great flood, Matsya emerged to guide humanity to safety, preserving the seeds of creation for a new era. This tale is more than a myth, it's a metaphor for the cyclical nature of time itself. The flood represents destruction, the fish symbolizes preservation, and the eventual emergence of a new world signifies creation. Through this lens, the gates of time become a way to understand the inevitability of change and the promise of renewal. But the gates of time are not just about cosmic cycles, they also speak to the human experience. In Hindu philosophy, time is seen as both a destroyer and a creator, a force that shapes our lives in ways we cannot always control. The gates remind us that every ending is also a beginning, that even in the face of loss, there is the potential for rebirth. This idea resonates deeply in rituals like Diwali, the Festival of Lights, which celebrates the triumph of light over darkness and the renewal of life. What makes the gates of time so fascinating is their dual nature. They are both a passage and a barrier, a place where the past, present, and future intersect. In this way, time itself becomes a mythological gate, a threshold that we all must cross, moment by moment, as we navigate the cycles of our own lives. Whether through the grand narratives of the gods or the quiet rhythms of daily existence, the gates of time invite us to reflect on the transient beauty of life and the eternal patterns that shape it. As we move forward, we'll explore how this concept of time as a gate appears in other mythologies, revealing a universal fascination with the rhythms of existence and the thresholds that define them. For now, let's carry with us the image of the Kalachakra spinning endlessly, its gates opening and closing in the eternal dance of creation, preservation, and destruction. In the shadowed sanctuaries of ancient Greece, hidden from the eyes of the uninitiated, lay the gates of transformation, thresholds that promised not just knowledge but rebirth. These were the gates of mystery cults, secretive societies that offered their members a profound spiritual journey, one that could only be unlocked through sacred rituals and symbolic passage. Among the most renowned of these were the Eleusinian Mysteries, a centuries-old tradition dedicated to Demeter, the goddess of the harvest, and her daughter Persephone. To step through the gates of Eleusis was to enter a world of profound revelation, where the boundaries between life, death, and renewal were not just explored but experienced. The Eleusinian Mysteries were no ordinary religious practice. They were an initiation into the deepest mysteries of existence, a journey that began with a symbolic descent into darkness and ended with the promise of spiritual illumination. At the heart of these rites were the gates, not physical barriers, but thresholds of understanding. Initiates would pass through these gates as part of a multi-stage process, each step bringing them closer to the divine. The exact details of these rituals remain shrouded in secrecy, as initiates were sworn to silence, but we know that the experience was transformative. Participants emerged with a renewed sense of purpose, a deeper connection to the divine, and an unshakable belief in the possibility of rebirth. These gates were more than just symbols, they were stages in a sacred drama. The first gate might represent purification, where initiates cleansed themselves of worldly concerns. The second could symbolize revelation, a moment of profound insight into the cycles of life and death. And the final gate, that was the threshold of rebirth, a point of no return where the old self was shed and a new, enlightened being emerged. This layered symbolism reflects a universal truth. That transformation is not a single event but a journey, one that requires courage, faith, and a willingness to let go of the familiar. The secrecy surrounding these rites only added to their power. By restricting knowledge to the initiated, the mystery cults created an aura of exclusivity and reverence. This secrecy wasn't just about protecting sacred knowledge, it was about preserving the transformative power of the experience. To reveal the mysteries to the uninitiated would have been to strip them of their potency, to reduce the sacred to the mundane. In this way, the gates of initiation became not just thresholds of understanding but barriers that separated the sacred from the profane. The influence of these practices extended far beyond the ancient world. The idea of passing through symbolic gates to achieve spiritual enlightenment can be seen in later religious traditions, from the baptismal rites of Christianity to the initiatory practices of Freemasonry. These echoes remind us that the human quest for meaning and transformation is timeless, transcending cultures and eras. The gates of initiation, whether in ancient Greece or modern rituals, continue to inspire us to seek deeper truths and to embrace the transformative power of the unknown. What makes these gates so compelling is their dual nature. They are both barriers and invitations, points of exclusion and inclusion. They challenge us to confront our fears, to step into the unknown, and to emerge transformed. In this way, the gates of initiation are not just relics of the past, but timeless symbols of the human spirit's enduring search for meaning and renewal. As we turn our attention to the next mystery, let's carry with us this idea that every gate, whether physical or symbolic, represents an opportunity for transformation, a chance to step beyond the familiar and into the extraordinary. And in doing so, we continue a journey that began millennia ago, one that still resonates in the stories we tell and the rituals we practice today. In the heart of Native American spirituality lies a profound understanding of the natural world, a belief that everything is interconnected and that harmony comes from honoring the balance of the earth, sky, and all living things. Central to this world, you are the gates of the four directions, sacred thresholds that represent the cardinal points, north, south, east, and west. Each gate is more than just a direction. It's a portal to the forces of nature, a pathway to the spirits, and a guide to living in alignment with the universe. For the Navajo people, these gates are deeply woven into their ceremonial practices. The east, often associated with the rising sun, symbolizes new beginnings and the promise of renewal. It's the direction of clarity, of illumination, where the first light of dawn dispels darkness and brings wisdom. The south, linked to the warmth of midday, represents growth, vitality, and the nurturing energy of the earth. To the west, where the sun sets, lies the gate of introspection and transformation, a place where the day's experiences are reflected upon and lessons are absorbed. And to the north, the direction of night and winter, is the gate of wisdom and endurance, where the cold teaches resilience and the stars offer guidance. These gates are not just abstract concepts, they are alive with meaning, each tied to specific colors, elements, and spiritual beings. In Navajo tradition, for example, the east is often associated with white, the south with blue, the west with yellow, and the north with black. These colors are not random, they are symbolic, reflecting the energies and teachings of each direction. Ceremonies often incorporate these colors through sand paintings, prayer offerings, and sacred rituals, creating a tangible connection to the spiritual world. The Lakota people also hold the four directions in high reverence, seeing them as essential to maintaining balance in life. In their sun dance ceremony, participants face each direction, offering prayers and gratitude to the spirits that govern them. This act of acknowledgement is not just a ritual, it's a way of aligning oneself with the natural order, of recognizing that every part of the world has a role to play in the greater whole. The gates of the four directions in this context become tools for healing, for restoring harmony when it has been lost. What makes these gates so powerful is their universality. They remind us that balance is not static but dynamic, a constant interplay of forces that must be honored and maintained. In a world that often feels fragmented, the gates of the four directions offer a roadmap to wholeness, a way of living that respects the interconnectedness of all things. Interestingly, the concept of directional gates isn't unique to Native American traditions. In Chinese cosmology, the four directions are tied to the elements wood in the east, fire in the south, metal in the west, and water in the north, each governing different aspects of life and nature. Similarly, in ancient Celtic traditions, the four directions were linked to the seasons, the winds, and the cycles of the year. These parallels suggest a shared human intuition about the importance of balance and the sacredness of the natural world. As we explore these gates, we're invited to consider how they might guide us in our own lives. How can we honor the balance of the four directions in our daily routines? How can we draw strength from the wisdom of the North, the vitality of the South, the clarity of the East, and the introspection of the West? The gates of the four directions challenge us to look beyond ourselves, to see the world as a web of interconnected energies and to find our place within it. With this in mind, let's turn our attention to another set of gates, ones that bridge not just the physical and spiritual, but also the realms of the living and the dead. These are the gates that lead to the afterlife, where the journey of the soul takes on new meaning and mystery. In the vibrant world of Aztec mythology, the sun and moon were not just celestial bodies, they were divine forces, rulers of the heavens whose movements shaped the very fabric of existence. At the heart of this cosmic dance were the gates of the sun and moon, sacred thresholds controlled by the gods Tenatia and Coilxauhqui. These gates were more than just metaphors. They were the mechanisms through which day turned to night, life gave way to death, and the world itself was kept in balance. Tenatia, the sun god, was a figure of immense power and vitality. His daily journey across the sky was seen as a heroic struggle, a battle against the forces of darkness that sought to extinguish his light. Each morning, Tenatia emerged through the eastern gate, bringing warmth and life to the world. But this was no simple act. It required the energy of human sacrifice, a belief rooted in the Aztec understanding that the sun's vitality depended on the blood of the willing. Tenatia's passage through the gate symbolized the eternal cycle of creation and renewal, a reminder that life itself is sustained through sacrifice and balance. On the other side of this celestial equation was Coilxauhqui, the moon goddess. Her story is one of tragedy and transformation, a tale of betrayal and rebirth. According to myth, Coilxauhqui was dismembered by her brother Huitzilopochtli, the god of war, and cast into the sky. There, she became the moon, her silver light a constant presence in the night. The gates she controlled were not just markers of time, but symbols of her fragmented yet enduring power. Through these gates, the moon governed the cycles of fertility, the tides, and the mysteries of the night. Together, Tenatia and Coilxauhqui represented the duality of existence, light and darkness, life and death, creation and destruction. Their gates were the points where these forces met and intertwined, creating a delicate equilibrium that held the universe together. For the Aztecs, this balance was not static but dynamic, a constant interplay that required vigilance and reverence. One of the most striking aspects of this belief system was the interpretation of solar and lunar eclipses. To the Aztecs, these events were not mere astronomical phenomena, but moments of profound significance. An eclipse was seen as a time when the gates of the sun or moon were thrown open, allowing the forces of chaos to spill into the world. During a solar eclipse, it was believed that Tenatia's light was being extinguished, a terrifying prospect that threatened the very survival of the world. Similarly, a lunar eclipse was seen as a moment when Coilxauhqui's power waned, leaving the night vulnerable to disruption. These celestial events were met with both fear and awe. Rituals were performed to appease the gods and restore balance, often involving offerings, prayers, and acts of penance. The Aztecs saw these moments as tests of their faith and resilience, opportunities to reaffirm their connection to the divine and their role in maintaining cosmic order. But the gates of the sun and moon were not just about the heavens, they also held deep implications for human destiny. The Aztecs believed that the movements of these celestial bodies influenced the lives of individuals and communities, shaping their fortunes and fates. A person born under a particular phase of the moon or during a significant solar event was thought to carry the mark of that moment, their life forever intertwined with the cycles of the gods. This connection between the celestial and the terrestrial is a recurring theme in Aztec culture. reflecting a worldview where the sacred and the everyday were deeply intertwined. The gates of the sun and moon were not distant, abstract concepts. They were active forces, shaping the rhythms of life and the destinies of those who lived beneath their light. As we reflect on these gates, we're reminded of the enduring human fascination with the heavens, with the idea that the stars and planets hold secrets about our lives and our place in the universe. The Aztec understanding of these celestial thresholds offers a unique perspective, one that challenges us to see the world not as a collection of separate parts but as a unified whole where the divine and the mortal are forever connected. With this in mind, let's turn our attention to another set of gates, ones that bridge not just the physical and spiritual, but also the realms of the living and the dead. These are the gates that lead to the afterlife, where the journey of the soul takes on new meaning and mystery. In the twilight realm of dreams, where the boundaries between reality and illusion blur, lie the gates of horn and ivory, two mysterious thresholds that guard the passage of true and false visions. These gates, immortalized in Homer's Odyssey, are more than just poetic devices. They are profound symbols of the human struggle to distinguish truth from deception, reality from fantasy. To the ancient Greeks and Romans, dreams were not mere figments of the imagination. They were messages from the gods, glimpses into the future, or echoes of the soul's deepest desires. And the gates of horn and ivory stood as the ultimate arbiters of these visions, shaping how dreams were understood and interpreted. The gate of horn, as Homer tells us, is the portal through which true dreams pass. These are the dreams that carry divine insight, the ones that reveal hidden truths or foretell future events. For the ancients, such dreams were sacred, offering a direct line to the gods and the mysteries of the universe. The horn itself is a symbol of clarity and strength, its translucent surface allowing only the purest visions to emerge. To pass through this gate was to receive a gift, a rare moment of divine revelation that could guide one's path in the waking world. In contrast, the gate of ivory is the threshold of false dreams, the ones that deceive and mislead. Ivory, with its opaque and impenetrable surface, represents illusion, the kind of dreams that twist reality and obscure the truth. These are the dreams that leave us questioning, the ones that fade upon waking, leaving behind only confusion or doubt. For the Greeks and Romans, such dreams were a reminder of the fragility of human perception, of our tendency to be led astray by our own desires and fears. But why these two materials, horn and ivory? The choice is deeply symbolic. Horn, derived from animals, connects the dreamer to the natural world, to the raw, unfiltered truths of existence. Ivory, on the other hand, is a product of human craftsmanship, a material shaped by human hands, reflecting our capacity to create and distort our own realities. Together, these gates represent the dual nature of dreams, their power to enlighten and to deceive, to guide and to mislead. This duality extends beyond dreams themselves. The gates of horn and ivory can also be seen as metaphors for the human mind, for the ways in which memory and imagination shape our understanding of the world. Memory, like the gate of horn, allows us to access truths, to recall events and experiences with clarity. Imagination, like the gate of ivory, opens the door to creativity, but it also carries the risk of distortion, of losing oneself in fantasy. In this way, the gates become not just thresholds for dreams, but pathways through which we navigate the complexities of our own minds. Homer's use of these gates in the Odyssey is particularly poignant. When Odysseus's wife, Penelope, dreams of her husband's return, she is unsure whether her vision came through the gate of horn or ivory. This uncertainty mirrors her own struggle to hold on to hope in the face of endless waiting and uncertainty. Her dream becomes a reflection of her inner world, a space where faith and doubt, truth and illusion are in constant tension. The gates of horn and ivory remind us that dreams are not just fleeting images but powerful forces that shape our lives. They challenge us to question what we see, to discern the truth amidst the noise of our own minds. And in doing so, they invite us to explore the deeper mysteries of memory and imagination, two gates that, like their mythological counterparts, open onto worlds both real and imagined, both known and unknown. As we turn our attention to the next mystery, let's carry with us this idea that the gates we encounter are not just physical or symbolic thresholds. They are also the ones we create within ourselves, the pathways through which we navigate the landscapes of our own minds and souls. And in exploring these inner gates, we continue a journey that has fascinated humanity for millennia, one that bridges the realms of myth, memory, and the mysteries of the human experience. In the vast expanse of the Pacific Ocean, where the horizon stretches endlessly and the winds dance freely across the waves, the Polynesian people have long held a deep reverence for the forces of nature. Among these, the wind is not just a physical presence, it is a divine force, a gateway to the unseen energies that shape life itself. Central to this belief are the gates of the wind, sacred thresholds controlled by the wind gods, who hold the power to summon storms, calm the seas, and guide the fates of those who sail beneath their watchful gaze. These gates are more than just metaphors, they are integral to the Polynesian understanding of the world. The wind gods, known as Toherimatia in Maori tradition, are both creators and destroyers, their breath weaving the fabric of existence. To navigate the open ocean, Polynesian voyagers would invoke these gods, offering prayers and rituals to ensure safe passage. The gates of the wind, in this context, became tools of survival, their opening and closing determining the success of journeys across treacherous waters. One of the most fascinating aspects of these beliefs is their connection to navigation. The Polynesians were master navigators, using the stars, currents, and winds to traverse thousands of miles of open ocean. But their skill was not just technical, it was deeply spiritual. Before setting sail, navigators would perform rituals to honor the wind gods, seeking their favor and guidance. These ceremonies often involved chants, offerings, and the careful observation of natural signs, from the direction of the breeze to the behavior of birds. The gates of the wind, in this sense, were not just physical thresholds but spiritual ones, marking the transition between the known and the unknown. The stories of Maui, the trickster god, further illustrate the power and unpredictability of these gates. In one tale, Maui captures the winds in a magical net, forcing them to reveal their secrets. This act of defiance against the wind gods is both daring and dangerous, a reminder of the delicate balance between humanity and the divine. Maui's cunning and bravery reflect the Polynesian spirit of exploration and resilience, but his story also carries a warning. The winds, like the gods who control them, are not to be trifled with. In fishing rituals, the gates of the wind take on another layer of meaning. Fishermen would call upon the wind gods to bring abundance to their nets, but they also knew that the same winds could scatter their catch or drive them into peril. This duality, the wind as both giver and taker, underscores a universal truth that the forces of nature are as unpredictable as they are powerful. The rituals surrounding fishing were not just practical, they were acts of humility, acknowledging humanity's dependence on the will of the gods. This connection between natural elements and spiritual gateways is not unique to Polynesian mythology. Across cultures, wind, water, fire, and earth have often been seen as thresholds to the divine. In Greek mythology, the winds were personified as gods, each with their own temperament and domain. In Native American traditions, the four winds are sacred forces, each carrying its own teachings and blessings. Even in Hinduism, the god Vayu is the lord of the wind, a vital force that sustains life and connects the material and spiritual worlds. What ties these beliefs together is the idea that the natural world is not separate from the divine but a manifestation of it. The gates of the wind remind us that the elements are not just physical phenomena but sacred pathways, offering us glimpses into the mysteries of existence. They challenge us to see the world with wonder and reverence, to recognize that every gust of wind, every ripple on the water carries a deeper meaning. As we reflect on these gates, we're reminded of the enduring human connection to the elements, to the forces that shape our lives in ways we cannot always control. They invite us to step through the threshold and into a world where the sacred and the natural are one, where the wind is not just a force of nature but a messenger of the divine. With this in mind, let's turn our attention to another set of gates, ones that bridge not just the physical and spiritual, but also the realms of the living and the dead. These are the gates that lead to the afterlife, where the journey of the soul takes on new meaning and mystery. In the ancient land of Egypt, where the Nile's life-giving waters flowed beneath the watchful eyes of the gods, the journey of the soul was not merely a passage, it was a trial, a series of gates that tested the very essence of one's being. At the heart of this journey lies the Egyptian Book of the Dead, a sacred text that serves as a guidebook for the afterlife. Within its pages, we find the gates of the soul, thresholds guarded by fearsome deities, each demanding proof of purity and wisdom before allowing passage. These gates are not just obstacles, they are profound symbols of the soul's transformation, marking the steps toward eternal life. The Book of the Dead describes a series of gates, each protected by a deity whose name and form are as mysterious as the challenges they present. To pass through these gates, the soul must recite specific spells and demonstrate knowledge of the divine. These spells, known as utterances, were carefully inscribed on papyrus and placed in tombs, ensuring the deceased had the tools needed to navigate the perilous journey. But this was more than a test of memory, it was a test of character. The gods at each gate demanded not only the correct words but also proof of a life well lived, free from sin and deceit. One of the most striking aspects of these gates is their symbolic meaning. Each gate represents a stage in the soul's purification, a step closer to the realm of Osiris, the god of the afterlife. The first gate might test the soul's honesty, requiring an affirmation of truthfulness before the deity Mat, the embodiment of cosmic order. The second could challenge the soul's understanding of divine mysteries, demanding knowledge of sacred names and rituals. And so on, gate by gate, until the soul reached the final threshold, where it would stand before Osiris himself, awaiting judgment. The rituals surrounding these gates reveal a deep connection between the living and the dead. Families would provide offerings and recite prayers to aid the deceased in their journey, while priests performed ceremonies to ensure the gates would open. This interplay between the mortal and the divine underscores a central belief in Egyptian culture, that life and death are part of a continuous cycle, and that the actions of the living can influence the fate of the departed. But the gates of the soul are not just relics of ancient Egypt, they have left an indelible mark on later esoteric traditions. The idea of a soul undergoing trials to reach a higher state resonates in the writings of mystics and philosophers across cultures. In the Hermetic traditions of the Renaissance, for example, the journey through symbolic gates became a metaphor for spiritual enlightenment, a process of self-discovery and transformation. Similarly, in modern occult practices, the concept of passing through gates guarded by spiritual entities echoes the ancient Egyptian belief in the soul's journey through the afterlife. What makes these gates so compelling is their dual nature. They are both barriers and invitations, points of exclusion and inclusion. They challenge us to confront our own imperfections, to seek knowledge and purity, and to recognize that the journey of the soul is not just about reaching a destination, but about the transformation that occurs along the way. As we reflect on the gates of the soul, we're reminded that the boundaries between life and death, the known and the unknown, are not fixed but fluid. They invite us to consider our own journeys, to ask what trials we might face, and to seek the wisdom and courage needed to pass through the gates that lie ahead. In this way, the ancient Egyptian vision of the afterlife becomes not just a story of the past, but a timeless reflection of the human spirit's quest for meaning and transcendence. And so, as we prepare to explore the next mystery, let's carry with us this image of a soul standing before a gate, reciting the sacred words and stepping forward into the unknown, guided by the hope of renewal and the promise of eternal life. In the heart of Slavic folklore, where the rhythms of nature are woven into the fabric of daily life, the changing of the seasons is not just a shift in weather, it's a sacred transformation, marked by mythical gates that open and close with the turning of the year. These gates of the seasons are more than symbolic. They are thresholds between worlds, moments when the veil between the earthly and the divine grows thin, allowing humans to connect with the forces that govern life itself. One of the most significant of these gates is the winter solstice, a time when the world is cloaked in darkness and the sun seems to stand still. In Slavic tradition, this moment is known as Kolyada, a festival that celebrates the rebirth of the sun and the promise of longer days. As the solstice gate opens, rituals are performed to honor the sun god Dajbog and to ensure his return. Bonfires blaze, songs are sung, and offerings are made, all in the hope of coaxing the light back into the world. This time of year is not just about survival, it's a celebration of renewal, a reminder that even in the darkest times, light will return. Equally important is the spring equinox, a time of balance and rebirth. Known as Maslenitsa, this festival marks the end of winter and the beginning of spring, a time when the gates of the seasons swing wide to welcome new life. During Maslenitsa, communities come together to feast, dance, and burn effigies of winter, symbolizing the triumph of warmth and growth over cold and decay. Pancakes, round and golden like the sun, are a central part of the celebration, serving as both a symbol of the returning light and a gesture of gratitude to the gods for their blessings. But perhaps the most enchanting of all these seasonal gates is Cupola Night, a midsummer celebration that takes place on the summer solstice. This is a time of magic and mystery, when the boundaries between the human and spirit worlds blur and the forces of nature are at their most potent. On Cupola Night, fires are lit and young people leap over the flames in a ritual of purification and protection. Herbs gathered on this night are believed to have extraordinary healing powers, while the waters of rivers and lakes are said to be imbued with divine energy. It's a time of fertility, both for the land and for the people, as the gates of summer open wide, releasing the full abundance of the season. These seasonal gates are not just moments in time, they are opportunities to align with the natural world, to honor the cycles that sustain life. They remind us that we are part of something larger, that our lives are deeply connected to the rhythms of the earth and the heavens. For the Slavs, these gates were not just observed, they were lived, their significance woven into every aspect of daily life, from the planting of crops to the rituals of marriage and birth. What makes these gates so compelling is their universality. Across cultures, the turning of the seasons has been marked by festivals and rituals, each reflecting a deep reverence for the natural world. From the Celtic celebration of Samhain to the Japanese observance of the equinoxes, these traditions remind us that the gates of the seasons are not just about the passage of time. They are about the passage of our own lives, the cycles of growth, decay, and renewal that define our existence. As we reflect on these gates, we're invited to consider how we, too, can honor the seasons, not just as markers of time, but as opportunities for connection and transformation. How can we, like the Slavs, find meaning in the turning of the year, in the rhythms of nature that shape our lives? The gates of the seasons challenge us to step through the threshold and into a world where the sacred and the natural are one, where every season is a reminder of the beauty and mystery of existence. With this in mind, let's turn our attention to another set of gates, ones that bridge not just the physical and spiritual, but also the realms of the living and the dead. These are the gates that lead to the afterlife, where the journey of the soul takes on new meaning and mystery. In the serene teachings of Buddhist philosophy, the mind is not a static entity but a dynamic landscape shaped by the constant flow of thoughts and emotions. At the heart of this understanding lies the concept of the gates of the mind, thresholds through which every thought, feeling, and perception enters and exits. Imagine these gates as the gatekeepers of your inner world, regulating what comes in and what stays out. In Buddhist practice, mastering these gates is not just a skill, it's a path to liberation, a journey toward enlightenment. The idea of mental gates is deeply rooted in the practice of mindfulness, a cornerstone of Buddhist meditation. Mindfulness teaches us to observe our thoughts without attachment, to watch them as they pass through these gates like clouds drifting across the sky. The goal isn't to suppress or control these thoughts, but to become aware of them, to recognize their impermanent nature. By doing so, we begin to untangle ourselves from the web of our own minds, finding clarity and peace in the process. One of the most beautiful metaphors for this transformation is the lotus flower. In Buddhist symbolism, the lotus grows in muddy waters, yet it emerges pure and untainted, a symbol of enlightenment rising from the chaos of the world. Similarly, the gates of the mind represent the possibility of inner purity, of transcending the muddied waters of our thoughts and emotions to reach a state of clarity and wisdom. This transformation doesn't happen overnight. It's a gradual process requiring patience, discipline, and a deep commitment to self-awareness. But the gates of the mind are not just about personal growth, they also reflect a universal truth about the human experience. In every moment, we are bombarded with sensory input, thoughts, and emotions, all vying for our attention. These gates remind us that we have the power to choose what we let in, to filter out the noise and focus on what truly matters. This idea resonates beyond Buddhism, appearing in various spiritual traditions that emphasize the importance of guarding one's mind. In Hindu philosophy, for example, the concept of manas, the mental faculty, plays a similar role. Like the Buddhist gates, manas is seen as a filter, a tool for discerning truth from illusion. In Stoic philosophy, the mind is likened to a fortress with gates that must be carefully guarded against negative influences. These parallels highlight a shared human understanding that the mind is both a gateway and a sanctuary, a place where we can either find freedom or become trapped. What makes the Buddhist approach unique is its emphasis on mindfulness as a means of transformation. By observing the flow of thoughts through the gates of the mind, we begin to see patterns, to recognize the habits and attachments that keep us bound. This awareness is the first step toward liberation, a process that unfolds not through force but through gentle, persistent observation. As we explore the gates of the mind, we're invited to consider our own mental landscapes, to ask what thoughts and emotions we allow to pass through our gates unchecked. Are we cultivating clarity and compassion, or are we letting in negativity and distraction? The journey through these gates is not just a Buddhist practice, it's a universal invitation to explore the depths of our own consciousness, to discover the freedom that comes from mastering our inner world. Now let's shift our focus to another set of gates, ones that bridge not just the physical and spiritual, but also the realms of the living and the dead. These are the gates that lead to the afterlife, where the journey of the soul takes on new meaning and mystery. In the ancient city of Babylon, where towering ziggurats pierced the sky and the heavens were meticulously mapped, the stars were not just distant lights, they were divine messengers, guardians of celestial gates that connected the earthly realm to the cosmos. For the Babylonians, these gates of the stars were more than astronomical phenomena. They were sacred thresholds, each governed by the movements of planets and constellations, shaping the fate of individuals and empires alike. This belief in celestial gates became the foundation of Babylonian astrology, a system that blended science, religion, and myth into a profound understanding of the universe. At the heart of this system was the idea that the heavens were a kind of cosmic blueprint, a map of divine will written in the stars. The Babylonians believed that each planet and constellation controlled a specific gate, influencing events on Earth as they moved through the sky. For example, the planet Venus, known as Ishtar, was associated with love and war, her movement signaling shifts in fortune and conflict. Similarly, the Pleiades, a cluster of stars, were seen as a gate to wisdom and guidance, their appearance marking important agricultural cycles and religious festivals. These celestial gates were not abstract concepts, they were deeply woven into the fabric of Babylonian life. The construction of ziggurats, those massive step temples, was a direct reflection of this belief. Each level of a ziggurat symbolized a different gate in the heavens, with the summit representing the ultimate threshold to the divine. Priests would ascend these structures during rituals, climbing ever closer to the gods, their movements mirroring the celestial journey of the stars. The ziggurats were not just architectural marvels, they were physical manifestations of the Babylonian worldview, bridges between the earthly and the divine. The symbolism of these gates extended beyond architecture. Babylonian astrologers meticulously tracked the movements of celestial bodies, recording their observations on clay tablets. These records, some of the earliest known examples of astrological practice, were used to predict everything from harvests to the outcomes of wars. The gates of the stars were seen as portals of divine knowledge, their alignment offering insights into the will of the gods. For the Babylonians, astrology was not just a tool for prediction, it was a way of understanding the interconnectedness of all things, a belief that the heavens held the keys to earthly harmony. But the gates of the stars were also a reminder of humanity's place in the cosmos. The Babylonians saw themselves as part of a larger order, their lives intricately tied to the movements of the heavens. This perspective fostered a deep respect for the natural world and the forces that governed it, a humility that shaped their culture and rituals. The stars were not just distant lights, they were active participants in the human story, their gates opening and closing with the rhythms of time. This ancient understanding of celestial gates has left a lasting legacy. The Babylonian system of astrology laid the groundwork for later traditions, influencing Greek, Roman, and even modern astrological practices. The idea of the heavens as a gateway to divine knowledge resonates across cultures, from the Hindu concept of nakshatras to the Chinese lunar mansions. These parallels remind us that the human fascination with the stars is timeless, a shared quest to understand the mysteries of existence. As we reflect on the gates of the stars, we're invited to consider how ancient astronomy shaped not just mythological gates but our very understanding of the universe. The Babylonians saw the heavens as a living, breathing map, a celestial tapestry woven with meaning and purpose. Their legacy challenges us to look up at the night sky with fresh eyes, to see not just stars but thresholds to the infinite, gates that connect us to something greater than ourselves. With this in mind, let's turn our gaze to another set of gates, ones that bridge not just the physical and spiritual, but also the realms of the living and the dead. These are the gates that lead to the afterlife, where the journey of the soul takes on new meaning and mystery. Deep within the heart of Europe's ancient woodlands, where sunlight filters through dense canopies and the air hums with unseen life, lies a mystery as old as the trees themselves, the gates of the forest. These are not gates made of iron or stone, but thresholds woven into the very fabric of nature, where the ordinary world gives way to the extraordinary. In European folklore, forests have always been places of enchantment and peril, realms where the boundaries between the human and the magical blur. And at the center of these stories are the gates, hidden portals guarded by mythical beings, leading to realms of wonder and danger. Take, for example, the Brothers Grimm's timeless tale of Hansel and Gretel. Here, the forest is not just a setting but a character in its own right, a place where the known world dissolves into shadows and secrets. When the siblings stumble upon a house made of gingerbread, they unknowingly cross one of these hidden gates, stepping into a realm ruled by a witch with a hunger for children. The forest gate in this story is both a promise and a warning, a promise of shelter and sustenance, but also a warning of the dangers that lurk in the unknown. The witch herself becomes a guardian of sorts, a keeper of the gate who tests the children's wits and will to survive. But the gates of the forest are not always guarded by malevolent beings. In Celtic and Germanic traditions, fairies often serve as the gatekeepers of these enchanted realms. These fairies are not the diminutive, glittering creatures of modern imagination, but powerful, otherworldly beings who preside over the liminal spaces of the forest. To enter their domain without permission is to risk being lost forever, caught in a world where time flows differently and the rules of reality no longer apply. The forest gate, in this context, becomes a test of respect and humility, a reminder that the natural world is not ours to conquer but to honor. Trolls, too, play a role in these stories, often appearing as guardians of bridges or pathways deep within the woods. In Scandinavian folklore, crossing a troll's bridge is a perilous endeavor, requiring cunning, bravery, or a clever riddle to pass safely. These gates are not just physical barriers but moral challenges, forcing travelers to confront their own fears and weaknesses. The troll, with its imposing presence and riddling tongue, becomes a symbol of the forest's dual nature, a place of both danger and discovery. What makes these gates so compelling is their role as liminal spaces. In mythology, liminality refers to the in-between, the space where one state of being transitions into another. Forests, with their dense shadows and shifting light, are the ultimate liminal spaces. They are places of transformation where the ordinary becomes extraordinary and the familiar gives way to the unknown. The gates of the forest embody this idea, serving as thresholds where the mundane world is left behind and the magical begins. This concept resonates beyond European folklore. In Japanese mythology, the yokai spirits and creatures that inhabit the forest serve a similar role, guarding the boundaries between the human and spirit worlds. In Native American traditions, the forest is often seen as a place of vision quests and spiritual encounters, a gateway to deeper understanding. These parallels remind us that the forest, as a liminal space, holds a universal fascination, a shared human intuition about the mysteries that lie just beyond the edge of the known. As we step through these gates, we're invited to consider what they mean for us. How do we navigate the liminal spaces in our own lives, the moments of transition, the thresholds between what was and what will be? The gates of the forest challenge us to embrace the unknown, to step into the shadows with courage and curiosity, knowing that on the other side lies the possibility of transformation. With this in mind, let's turn our attention to another set of gates, ones that bridge not just the physical and spiritual, but also the realms of the living and the dead. These are the gates that lead to the afterlife, where the journey of the soul takes on new meaning and mystery. In the mystical traditions of Sufism, the heart is not merely an organ pumping blood. It is a sacred gate, a threshold between the human and the divine. This idea, central to Sufi spirituality, transforms the heart into a profound symbol of both separation and union, a place where the soul's deepest longings meet the infinite. For Sufis, the heart is more than a metaphor. It is the seat of divine love, the gateway through which one journeys toward union with the beloved, the ultimate source of all existence. The Sufi poets, masters of weaving words into wisdom, have long used the imagery of gates to describe this spiritual journey. Take Rumi, perhaps the most beloved of all Sufi mystics. In his poetry, the heart is often depicted as a locked door, one that must be opened through love, devotion, and surrender. The heart is the secret inside the secret, he writes, suggesting that within this gate lies not just the divine, but the very essence of who we are. Rumi's verses invite us to see the heart as a portal, a place where the finite self dissolves into the infinite, where the lover becomes one with the beloved. But this gate is not easily opened. The Sufi path is one of purification, of stripping away the layers of ego and desire that obscure the heart's true nature. In this sense, the heart is both a barrier and a portal. It is a barrier because it is clouded by the distractions of the world, by the noise of our own thoughts and fears. Yet it is also a portal, a point of access to a deeper reality, a place where the divine light can shine through. The Sufi seeks to polish the heart like a mirror, removing the tarnish of worldly attachments so that it may reflect the divine. This journey is often described as a series of gates, each representing a stage of spiritual awakening. The first gate might be the recognition of one's own separation from the divine, a moment of longing that sets the seeker on the path. The second could be the gate of surrender, where the ego begins to dissolve and the soul aligns itself with the divine will. And the final gate, that is the gate of union, where the lover and the beloved become one, where the heart itself becomes a vessel for divine love. The symbolism of the heart as a gate extends beyond Sufism, resonating in other spiritual traditions that emphasize the transformative power of love. In Christian mysticism, for example, the Sacred Heart of Jesus is a symbol of divine love and compassion, a gateway to grace. In Hinduism, the heart chakra, or anahata, is seen as the center of love and connection, a place where the individual soul meets the universal. These parallels remind us that the heart, as a gate, is a universal symbol, one that speaks to the deepest yearnings of the human spirit. Love itself, in this context, becomes a mythological gate. It is the force that opens the heart, that dissolves the barriers between self and other, between human and divine. Love is not just an emotion, it is a path, a journey, a gateway to transformation. The Sufis teach that divine love is the key to unlocking the heart's gate, that it is through love that we come to know the divine and, in doing so, come to know ourselves. As we reflect on the gates of the heart, we're invited to consider our own inner landscapes. What barriers have we built around our hearts? What would it mean to open them, to step through the gate and into the boundless realm of divine love? The Sufi path challenges us to see the heart not as a static organ, but as a dynamic threshold, a place where the finite meets the infinite, where the human becomes divine. With this in mind, let's turn our attention to another set of gates, ones that bridge not just the physical and spiritual, but also the realms of the living and the dead. These are the gates that lead to the afterlife, where the journey of the soul takes on new meaning and mystery. In the realm of prophetic visions, gates are not merely structures, they are profound symbols of transition, hope, and the promise of a future yet to unfold. Among the most striking examples are the gates of the New Jerusalem, described in the Book of Revelation. These gates, 12 in number and each made of a single pearl, stand as radiant thresholds to a divine city, a place where heaven and earth are finally united. But they are more than just entrances. They are emblems of hope, renewal, and the fulfillment of divine promises. To step through these gates is to enter a world where suffering has ceased, where the old has passed away, and where all things are made new. The imagery of these gates is rich with meaning. Each gate is inscribed with the name of one of the 12 tribes of Israel, symbolizing the continuity of God's covenant with humanity. The gates are never shut, a testament to the eternal openness of divine grace, and their construction from pearl, a gemstone formed through layers of hardship and transformation, hints at the beauty that emerges from struggle. Together, these details paint a picture of a future where the barriers between the divine and the human are dissolved, where the gates themselves become bridges to a restored and harmonious existence. This vision of the New Jerusalem's gates is not unique in prophetic traditions. Across cultures, gates have served as powerful symbols of transition, marking the boundary between the present and the future. In the Hebrew Bible, for example, the gates of the temple are places of judgment and mercy, where the faithful gather to seek justice and blessing. In Islamic eschatology, the gates of paradise and hell are central to the final reckoning, offering stark contrasts between reward and punishment. These gates are not just physical thresholds, they are moral and spiritual ones, representing the choices that shape our destinies. What makes these prophetic gates so compelling is their dual nature. They are both endings and beginnings, points of closure and points of opening. They mark the conclusion of one era and the dawn of another, inviting us to imagine a world transformed. In the Book of Revelation, the gates of the New Jerusalem signify the culmination of history, the moment when God's promises are fully realized. But they also point to a new beginning, a time of eternal renewal where the old sorrows are forgotten, and life is lived in perfect communion with the divine. This theme of gates as thresholds to renewal resonates beyond religious texts. In literature and art, gates often symbolize the passage from one state of being to another. Think of the wardrobe in The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe, a simple piece of furniture that becomes a gateway to a magical world. Or consider the gates in The Great Gatsby, which separate the glittering world of wealth from the quiet longing of the human heart. These gates, like their prophetic counterparts, remind us that every ending carries the seed of a new beginning, that every threshold is an opportunity for transformation. As we reflect on the gates of the future, we're invited to consider our own journeys. What gates lie ahead of us? What endings and beginnings await? Prophetic visions challenge us to see beyond the immediate, to trust in the promise of renewal even when the path is uncertain. They remind us that gates are not just barriers to be overcome, but invitations to step into a future brimming with possibility. With this in mind, let's turn our gaze to another set of gates, ones that bridge not just the physical and spiritual, but also the realms of the living and the dead. These are the gates that lead to the afterlife, where the journey of the soul takes on new meaning and mystery. In the realm of modern storytelling, the ancient concept of gates has found new life, evolving into portals that transport audiences to worlds beyond imagination. These modern gates, whether they appear in literature, film, or art, are more than just narrative devices. They are bridges between the familiar and the fantastical, the mundane and the extraordinary. From the enchanted wardrobe in the Chronicles of Narnia to the interstellar portal in Stargate, these thresholds continue to captivate us, blending timeless mythological themes with fresh, innovative narratives. Take, for instance, C.S. Lewis's beloved wardrobe. On the surface, it's a simple piece of furniture tucked away in a spare room, but step through its doors and you're transported to Narnia, a land of talking animals, epic battles, and eternal winter. The wardrobe isn't just a gate, it's a symbol of childhood wonder, a reminder that magic can be found in the most ordinary places. Lewis's creation draws on ancient mythological motifs, the idea of a hidden world, accessible only to those who believe, while infusing it with a modern sensibility. It's a gateway that invites us to rediscover the magic of our own imaginations. Similarly, the Stargate franchise reimagines mythological gates as advanced technological devices, capable of opening wormholes to distant planets. Here, the gate isn't just a portal, it's a metaphor for exploration, for the human desire to push beyond the known and venture into the unknown. The Stargate itself echoes ancient myths of celestial thresholds, from the Babylonian gates of the stars to the Hindu Kalachakra, but it also reflects our contemporary fascination with science and discovery. In this way, it bridges the ancient and the modern, reminding us that the quest for knowledge is as old as humanity itself. These modern gates are not confined to literature and film. In art, too, the concept of thresholds has inspired countless works. Consider the surrealist paintings of René Magritte, where doors open into impossible landscapes, or the dreamlike installations of Yayoi Kusama, where mirrored rooms create infinite gateways into otherworldly spaces. These artists use gates as metaphors for the mind, exploring the boundaries between reality and illusion, the conscious and the subconscious. Their work reminds us that gates are not just physical structures, they are windows into the human psyche, invitations to explore the mysteries within. What makes these modern gates so compelling is their ability to blend the ancient and the contemporary. They draw on age-old themes: transformation, exploration, the crossing of boundaries, while adapting them to reflect our current concerns and aspirations. Whether it's the struggle for identity in Pan's Labyrinth or the quest for connection in Spirited Away, these gates resonate because they speak to universal human experiences, themes that transcend time and culture. At their core, these modern gates remind us that storytelling is itself a kind of threshold, a way of stepping into new worlds and seeing ourselves reflected in them. They challenge us to think beyond the limits of our own experience, to imagine what lies on the other side of the door. And in doing so, they keep the ancient magic of gates alive, inviting us to step through and discover the infinite possibilities that await. As we reflect on the gates of the imagination, we're reminded that the power of these thresholds lies not just in their ability to transport us, but in their capacity to transform us. They invite us to see the world and ourselves in new ways, to embrace the unknown with curiosity and courage. And in this way, they continue a tradition as old as storytelling itself, one that reminds us of the enduring magic of stepping through the gate and into the extraordinary. With this in mind, let's turn our attention to another set of gates, ones that bridge not just the physical and spiritual, but also the realms of the living and the dead. These are the gates that lead to the afterlife, where the journey of the soul takes on new meaning and mystery. As we reach the end of our journey through the mythological gates that have fascinated humanity for millennia, it's impossible not to marvel at the profound connections these stories reveal. From the shadowy gates of the underworld to the shimmering pathways of the Bifröst, from the sacred thresholds of the heart to the celestial gates of the stars, these portals are more than just ancient symbols. They are mirrors reflecting our deepest fears, hopes, and dreams. Each gate tells a story, not just of a culture or a time, but of the universal human experience. They remind us that life is a series of transitions, of thresholds we must cross, each one offering the chance for transformation, growth, and renewal. What unites these gates across cultures and eras is their dual nature. They are both barriers and invitations, points of separation and connection. The gates of the underworld test our readiness to face the unknown, while the celestial gates of the stars remind us of our place in a vast, interconnected cosmos. The gates of the heart challenge us to open ourselves to love and vulnerability, and the gates of the forest beckon us into realms of magic and mystery. Each gate, in its own way, serves as a metaphor for the thresholds we encounter in our own lives, moments of change, of decision, of stepping into the unknown. These gates also reveal a shared human intuition about the sacredness of boundaries. Whether it's the gates of the four directions guiding us to live in harmony with nature, or the gates of the future offering visions of renewal, they teach us that boundaries are not just limits but opportunities. They invite us to pause, to reflect, and to prepare before we step forward. In this way, mythological gates are not just relics of the past, they are timeless tools for understanding our lives and the world around us. But perhaps the most striking insight is how these gates connect us across time and space. The ancient Greeks, the Norse, the Celts, the Aztecs, each culture, though separated by geography and history, found meaning in the idea of thresholds. They saw in gates a way to make sense of life's mysteries, to explore the boundaries between the known and the unknown, the mortal and the divine. These stories remind us that, no matter where or when we live, we are all travelers on a shared journey, each of us facing our own gates, our own moments of crossing. As we close this exploration, let's carry with us the wisdom of these ancient stories. Every gate is an invitation to step into the unknown, to embrace transformation, to discover what lies beyond. They challenge us to approach life with curiosity and courage, to see every threshold not as an obstacle but as an opportunity. To leave you with a final thought, consider this: every gate is an invitation to explore the unknown. What gate fascinates you most? Is it the shimmering Bifröst, the haunting gates of the underworld, or perhaps the gates of the heart, where love and the divine meet? Share your thoughts in the comments below. We'd love to hear which gate captures your imagination. And if you've enjoyed this journey through the secrets of mythological gates, don't forget to subscribe for more deep dives into the ancient stories that continue to shape our world. Thank you for stepping through these gates with us. May your own thresholds lead you to wonder, discovery, and the endless possibilities that lie just beyond.